Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer. We talk about all things Livepeer. What did I just say? Oh, man. Whether it's orchestrating, delegating, transcoding, broadcasting, or anything to do with Livepeer, we're here to ask questions and get answers. So on our agenda today, we got a couple items around image to video, some AI stuff, graphics cards between hardware and inference times, and as well as the price per unit changing for transcoding jobs. So I'll start off with a couple things. I'd like to start off, I guess, AI inference is a good place to start. I've been messing around with the text or the image to video and the text to image stuff, and I'm just wondering, is there documentation on what parameters we can pass through to the image to video call, such as frames per second or resolution or any of this kind of stuff?
I think Rick's going to expand on this, but there's a docs. If you hit the container, it'll show you everything. Right, Rick?
So you mean which docs do you mean from
the Swagger? What's auto-generated with fast API?
Yeah, that one is a really nice one. I always forget about this one. So from the Hugging Face site, of course, there are not many parameters shown there on most models. So some researchers, they are really visual and they add them there. But for other models, I have to look in the code. So the frames per second is there for the stable video diffusion, but I had just had to look in the code, and you can see it in the code as well that I shared in the chat. But like what Brett is saying, that's correct. So if you have your AI worker container running, you can always access this Docker, this doc. It's like Swagger doc that will be automatically spin up at port 8000 for text to image. Image to image is on port 8001, and image to video is on port 8003, and it will give you all the parameters for the model.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm assuming frames per second can be modified, right? Because I see is it hard coded in here? It doesn't seem like it.
No, we don't hard code it. So the model doesn't hard code, and we also don't override it. So it can be modified.
So
I think there's still a cap on the total number of frames you can do, though. So if you try to increase the frames per second, or you're still going to be limited by 25 frames, I believe.
Yeah, correct. I saw that as well in the documentation.
So how do I get the list of parameters it would accept? Do I have to curl the endpoint, or how does that work?
I will send you the endpoint in the chat, one moment. So this is text to image. And oh, sorry, now I'm overwriting it. So 8000, if you go to this port, you will have text to image, image to image, and currently we have this documentation running on 8002 for image to video.
Oh, I see. 8002 for image to video.
Yeah, and then /docs, and you will get this beautiful documentation. One moment.
Is that in the GitHub repo somewhere?
You mean sorry, I did not fully get the question.
I don't think it is specifically, because the docs that are generated with this is part of they use fast API to generate, do the HTTP back and forth and get the commands, and the docs that he's going to get the link for or whatever and is generated by that, not by what they're doing, if that makes sense.
That's correct. So it's part of Fast API. That's our HTTP endpoint provider.
So if I have the Docker container up and running, I can just curl this endpoint and it should spit it out.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's interactive too, right, Rick? You could actually send the request through that and see what comes back.
It's not. I really like it. I think I shared a GIF or something in the IE video about it. Cannot find it that quickly, I think.
Oh, there we go. Ah, okay.
You see it?
Yeah. Okay. So it's HTML doc, fast API, Swagger UI, const, deep linking, show extensions, presets. But it doesn't show like parameters I can put into this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're at the right point. So basically what you have to do is spin up the container, ensure that you have like the network flag to host while running the container. That's still needed, or you have to forward the port. And then if you do localhost with that endpoint, it will show you like the pipelines. So I'm looking for a photo of it, so I will share it in the chat later. And if you click on, for example, the text to image pipeline, it will open up and there you will see all the parameters and you will see some kind of run button that you can also run a command and get it calculated. Or
Okay. String message type, detail display highlight. Okay. Yeah, I just don't see it. It's just displayed as in my command line as a HTML document. So there's nothing to.
oh, you're
Oh,
right.
yeah, do it through a web browser.
Okay, I
can.
see. Okay, let me try through a web browser. Assuming I have to expose this port. Is it scary to expose this port? Oh, it's already exposed. Huh.
Yeah, I did that for you. Sorry.
Guess it can't be that scary then, huh? Not yet.
So I for the people that are not seeing title screens, I'm not seeing the title screen. So I shared an image in the chat. So this is what you will see if you go to that port. And if you open the text to image, you will see all the parameters and you can even run. So I can do it on my machine, I think. So you can do it in the web browser. That's important to state. So I will. So there's a tryout button.
There it is. It's called text to image params. So you got model ID, prompt. So for this is image, prompt height, width, guidance scale, negative seed, and numbers of image per prompt. Right.
Yep.
Cool. And then
Makes
what
it
is
a lot easier to figure that out.
What is the? Can you show me the?
I shared my screen. So you see my screen, I think.
Yeah.
With a lot of tabs open, but don't mind them.
Do you have
so basically this is what.
Do you have the image to video pipeline open?
Yeah.
Currently not. So I have to, but this is what you see. It will be the same. So there will be so you open it up. There will be a tryout button. Here you get this. So here are all the parameters, and even you have documentation about these parameters lower. And if you do a prompt, a monkey with a stick, for example, and you execute it, it will be executed on the Livepeer network. And you saw that in this, because I'm doing on my own orchestrator, you will get like this strange code, but that's a base 64 image, and you can get an image out of that, a PNG, if you convert it on like a conversion site.
Oh,
so mostly the D apps do that.
Great. Okay, I didn't know this existed, so that's excellent. Is this on the gateway, or is this on, it's on the orchestrator?
This is on the orchestrator. So
Yeah.
I think on the gateway, because we also have endpoints, we could do something similar, but then you will not get this input.
No. This is fine. This is fine. No. I just needed to look up all the parameters because I took all the parameters from Brad's example, so that was easy. I did all the legwork on that. So now I'm.
So what I normally do is like this, but that's I understand that people don't want to do this. If I cannot find something, I go to the code that runs the model, and here it's in there as well. So the default is 7 for most models.
That's right.
For frames per second.
Yeah. So great. Okay, because I'm gonna have a lot of those as an options to mess around with on the front end, and so I'm kind of curious. Do we know? Have we tested out to see if more frames per second increases the RAM usage on the machine?
I have not done that myself, so we're mostly focused at the core elements of the network, so to get those up and running, and we did not experiment with this yet ourselves. So.
Yeah, because what I'd like to do is is specifically on Let's Generate.ai. I'm really not concerned about the time it takes to generate. I think it's going to be one of those things where you're going to input something and I'm going to display something like, hey, you can come back in 10 minutes and it'll be in your assets. You click it there, right? In doing so, what we could do is, if we increase the image size, the frames per second, all these things that all of a sudden really jack up the memory requirement. Based on my testing of doing sequential offloading, the CPU and forward chunking, we could reduce it by like 6x the RAM usage. So, if all of a sudden your RAM jumps to 30 gigs, which most cards can't do, we could then maybe bring it back down to like 12 or 15. And so, yeah, it'll take 10 minutes, but you're going to get like a really high quality video out of it. And that's kind of the goal behind this app, is to just really ignore speed and just go for quality. So yeah, this is just some ideas.
But there's still a 25 frame limit for the entire clip, right?
Oh, is it 25 per for the entire clip?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not 25 frames per second.
Nope.
So it depends on the model, I think, but I can look it up. So I will come back to you.
Like the XT one is 25. The other not XT one is 14, if I remember right.
Yeah, 25 is the most you can get with the stability.
Otherwise, Rick, are you guys doing like you're doing something else to get more frames, right?
We are currently not doing something else to get more frames. Not at our side. Maybe Kwan and CJ are doing something else.
Okay.
But we have been talking. I think Marco made a comment about that in one of the chats, to do like this sequential model generation of videos. That could be something to do, but it's way further down the line. And I think even these models for the next version, they will even increase the frames per video. So
yeah, I mean, this is always going to be changing, but I think right now what Yonda has talked about is frame interpolation to smooth it out or add frames to it.
Yeah. So he has already looked at that pipeline. It's currently not in the main code.
Yeah.
So it's not.
So would that be passing it off to like a next job, or would it all be run at once, do you think? And if you don't know, it's okay. I'm just taking this all the way through.
Yeah, so we have been talking about doing this. I've been talking with John as well about this, and doing more like the sequential. For example, one model does this job, then it passes it up to the other model. So, but we have not decided yet on that pipeline. It's further down the road.
Okay.
Right. I'm just looking at the limitations of this model specifically. Just like, yeah, it's generating videos are rather short, less than 4 seconds. 25 frames. The model does not achieve photorealism. The model cannot be controlled through text. The model cannot render legible text. I think most things.
So I know that Marco, for his video, you saw the cool astronaut some months ago. I think he made a longer video by like putting all this renders together. I think, and he was also I think investigating if we could do like text to video, just as an experiment. I don't know if he's here in the chat.
Let's see.
Probably pulling the last frame or something and then regenerating, right? Keep getting more and more time. I think he's probably doing something sophisticated.
Yeah, I saw it on his site, this cool video, and he did something there to make a longer video.
Right, if you pulled the last frame of the video, you could regenerate a new video based on that starting frame almost.
Yeah. Whether
keep
walking in the same direction, that's right.
I was going to say, but you may get completely. Yeah, the motion won't carry on with just by doing that.
Yeah, so I shared my screen again. This is what Marco made. It looks really cool, so I can restart it.
Yeah, I think Pika has an option to string together videos. I don't remember how it works, but I remember playing with
That's a
it
different.
a while back.
Wow, look at that. That's a really good, cool example.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
cool. Good work, Marco.
I was impressed. It's amazing.
I-
So
yeah.
I think we can do something similar there, only but I agree that your motion will not be as smooth if you don't use like this overarching model. I made a comment in the chat yesterday that organizes this of stitches all these different parts together in a nice way. So you need to also have a model run on like the limit between two segments that were generated or two video elements, I think, to make it smooth.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I'm gonna build the front end first so that I can handle just all the parameters, and then from there we can start building it out to do what Marco did. What does he do? Yeah, I still need to test my edits, but the commits are about right. It would enable requesting
I
the
think
text to video models from Hugging Face.
I think Marco just joined Titan. He requested to be on stage, so he can explain this process. I see a hand.
I think Titan did that
No, that's me
a while
inviting him
ago.
up. Green hand.
Okay.
No, green hands are no. People get very confused. Green hands are me inviting people up.
Sorry.
Yeah, the white and black hand is them asking to. So you'll never see the white and black hand because I just approve everyone. So
Titan's very inclusive. He tries to get everybody up
yeah,
here.
see, watch. Like I'll just invite Forkun's been up. See that he hasn't been, but and then it'll go down when they decline it. So, see, but I got him up here. See, yeah, every once in a while I gotta pull people up. Like Marley Mon, he's down there. He didn't ask to come up, but I'm gonna invite him. See what he says. But all orchestrators have the ability to invite themselves up and everyone else up on stage. So it's yeah, everyone feel free to invite people up you think are except Rich. Rich is the only one that doesn't have this power. It's funny.
Didn't want the power anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
I cannot do it as well, so.
But you can't invite people up?
No.
Really? No.
No, you have the power.
I'm the only one with this power? Really? Anyway, I'm inviting everyone up, so if you want to come up to stage, please feel free to join in on the conversation.
So I see Marco made a comment about the text to video. He has been working to get that right, he says, if you can see it.
We are hiring, based in Beijing, Hangzhou, and China. In China. There you go. Text to video models. Is this... How long has there been text to video? Did we just not include it in our...
No, so Marco asked me about it, I think, yesterday or the day before. And I said, currently, our bandwidth is spent to improve the system, improve the subnet, ensure that everybody can join by adding a new discovery algorithm. But he said, yeah, I'm going to take a look and I'm going to try to get it work. So I said, you can, of course, create a pull request. And I will review it, and it will be really nice to have it in the pipelines. But we didn't include it ourselves yet.
Right, because we've got to make sure that the rest of the network is working properly before we start adding all types of fancy models.
Yeah, I think Pon made a really good comment about it. You have to get the basics right first. So. But I'm always open to review this pull request and also for feature request.
Cool. All right. Yeah, as for the AI stuff, in general, yeah, just kind of building out a couple. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see a couple people building out front ends, different styles and different takes on how it's going to be done and the different use cases. So I'm glad to see there's actually a community of builders that are trying something with this product, which is pretty cool. So maybe on the Livepeer ecosystem website, we can start displaying some of these examples once kind of the subnet gets nicely tested and time. So excited to see
Yeah,
that go forward.
maybe tighten the question on that question to everyone. I mean, so as we obviously this SPE has made some great progress. Rick, a big shout out to Rick, who's been working like an absolute dog over the last weeks, and CJ and Quan and all the orgs. And yeah, I guess the next stage is thinking from the ecosystem side, what is the best way to support everyone who wants to build? Obviously, we'll be looking in the grants direction, but beyond grants, beyond the sort of funding side, what would be the best way to support more sort of open projects or more projects being built? So I'll put that to the floor.
Rich, is the goal to get everybody to stay on Catalyst for this stuff, or is it more of a come as you are, do what you want, as long as you're interacting with the network type of deal?
Latter. I mean,
Okay.
we presume most people will want to use Catalyst, and the aim is to get Catalyst to a place which I'm not sure if Eli's here to talk about it, but yeah, to get Catalyst as usable as easy to use as possible. But yeah, obviously, if you want to interact directly with the network, that's up to you.
Okay, because I think me, Marco, Mike, and anybody else we're all taking a slightly different approach. And this is Marco's idea. I'm just going to say it out loud of us trying to combine those in a way that's accessible for people to just pick up and build whatever product or app they want on it.
Right. Well, I mean, that's great. So, I mean, you could
But
call
then
that like
to your question about like the grants and stuff, I don't know if that's grants to us. It was probably grants to apps. Get them to pick it up and put it into their pipelines, right?
Yeah, I mean, grants can be in different directions. So, before it's not really in parlance here, but like we think about network goods, something like Catalyst, something open source that obviously the whole network can benefit from, and then also thinking about more commercially minded projects that will drive demand to the subnet and to the network as a whole, and both are viable options, routes to go down. It's but that's two different ways of thinking about it. One which is like a more commercially viable route. The other is which we can potentially help for around things like go to market, and if you're wanting to found something, early stage ventures, so how you could potentially raise money or think about a model, and then the other side being more network goods, i.e. Open source software that everyone can use. So the aim is to be able to fund both sides, because both are important, obviously, to a thriving ecosystem.
Yeah. Just I'm thinking. I know it's silent, but I'm trying to think. I don't know. I guess in my view, somebody's just going to want the tools, and that's what I think we're all working on, is trying to give them something that's not overly complicated that they can use. I think to answer your question of how to support it is just keep making it easy to run AI jobs. And the more we build out, the more options we have, and the more help we can get to do that, the better this is going to go. I know that's pretty basic, but I think it is just basic. It's just keep focused on building out and keep making it better.
That's the aim. If
Now, what?
I would say, sorry, go ahead, bro.
This is kind of an offshoot question, but what is there any thoughts on what we're kind of targeting in the fast fast, good, cheap triangle? Or are we just trying to target it all with different orchestrators having different hardware and different setups and different locations, throughout the globe?
You talking from a subnet perspective or from?
Yeah, from an AI perspective, because we can all buy graphics cards of varying different ages, types, memory. Like 4090s are the best. We all know that, but there's a ton of graphics cards underneath that. So is it just raw number of jobs that can be processed, or is it more of process them fast more than number of jobs?
Rick,
So
do you want to come? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So if I understand your question correctly, is what's the aim from the Livepeer network as a whole? Do we want to focus mostly on getting the fastest speed or getting the best quality? Can people wait, for example, for the jobs? Is that correct, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, you can have, because think of two different products that come in. They want it fast. One comes in, wants it fast. One just wants it in a reasonable time at a much more reasonable rate.
Yeah. So
Go for it.
that I think that question, Doc, also got that question. I think in the community orchestrator call or something. So basically, we're not really focused at one side there. So there will be use cases, for example, with the apps that runs it really fast, and there will be use cases, for example, that Titan is talking about, where you can wait for 1 hour or for 10 minutes for like your result, and it doesn't matter because you will just send over, for example, 10 of those results, and you just want the 10 of them done in 10 minutes. So I think our focus is not really on one side, but I can understand that from like an orchestrator side, it might be hard to choose which GPU you then want to support those jobs. But we are working, Eli is working on like metrics to make those visible for both the orchestrators and the broadcasters to show which models are being requested more frequently on the network. So that will give, in the starting, it will give orchestrators an idea of what models are more valuable. And after that, of course, you can look at more dynamic loads, how do you call it, algorithms, for example, that are based on the current demand. But then we also have to go into this is far ahead into the phase where we have to optimize the cold loading of models and make that faster. So I hope that answered it a little bit. Maybe I went the wrong way, but
Yeah, I know we have build outs to do, obviously, which is still brand new. That was where I went with Rich's question of like, how do we support this growth? How do we get it to grow? How do we keep this moving? And then there's the orchestrator side, and there's the app side of that. I don't think I have an answer for the app side of it, other than just give them tools that are pretty low hanging fruit or easy enough to interact with in the state of whatever the network state is at that time. So they have to update it over time as well,
Yeah, I think I agree with that point. So I know that we have been talking with the team that one of the main entry points will be Catalyst. It will be nice to have people, to transparent away, or how do you call it, all these difficult things of working with the subnet. But if you want something more difficult, you can, of course, like Rich says, just interact with the subnet directly. But there is this aim to make it easy for people by integrating these IE jobs in Catalyst. It also has its benefits because you can do extra things. For example, you can use IE to do like the whisper model on like video. So there will be this hybrid combinations that are extremely interesting.
I agree. I think anything video centric is going to benefit by going through Catalyst, and I know that's going through its own journey right now to be able to be launchable, and it's much closer. Or maybe it's in there. I've kind of lost track of it, unfortunately.
But, yeah, so I know in my last talk with Eli, there's already a pass through. So you can use in Catalyst, you can use these jobs, but it does not do anything more than that. So it's just a pass through to the real APIs, but we will maybe make it easier on the Catalyst side. But I think Eli can answer better that question. So
yeah, that's fine. Rich, sorry if I hijacked your question, man.
No, all good, all good. At the end of the day, we've got to build tools for the supply side to make it easier, and then obviously also just think about how, starting to think a little bit more go to market on the consumer side, on the demand side, to think how can we get great apps, great and founders who want to build products on top, who can generate demand. And that's where, I think there is this transition, thinking about, for instance, all of the stream ETHs, taking some transcoding examples, stream ETHs and also Unlonely and Lot Radio. We need similar sort of demand generating entities for on the AI side, and they need to have audiences and users, and we need to start thinking a bit more about like virality and a lot of these dynamics. So that's a different kettle of fish. We've got to make sure that the subnet is obviously ready and can scale, but we also need to start thinking about demand side at a bigger scale, probably from I don't know, probably May onwards.
Right. So it got me thinking some more. So how would we be able to let people try it, other than us just setting our price super low? Maybe Mike can do something with their Livepeer cloud broadcaster.
As in, how do we get, like, using, I don't know, a credits model, like a lot of
Yeah, and
platforms
them
use?
not having to spin up the broadcaster or the gateway node themselves,
Okay, the on the developer side. Yeah, definitely. I think, where we'll go is that's the sort of next, I don't want to promise anything, but that's thinking of like next SPE, and or the next stage is how can we allocate some funding from the on-chain treasury to then think, okay, we need to bootstrap this. How does a standard, let's say a centralized player, do this? Will they take on a load of VC bucks and they effectively spend those VC bucks on and have a credits model? We may need to do something similar in the short run, just to be to play the game, and then look to have a premium model or different sorts of models from the developer standpoint. But yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a credits model, and that will have to, the funding from that has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and this also applies to like the Stream ETH or the hackathons or whatever. I'm sure some of us would run broadcasters for that, and I'm also sure that a number of us orchestrators would connect to those broadcasters at gateways. So got to change that gateway term to provide something for people to hit when they're trying to build whatever they're building, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at how to not pivot, but add into the fold some of the AI broadcaster gateway capabilities. I mean, Livepeer Cloud is funded for transcoding, but we have some decent sized servers that are, don't have a lot of capacity or don't have a lot of usage right now. So we have capacity in Livepeer Cloud, and providing that as a means to get people some exposure, and it wouldn't even need credits. I mean, we pretty much have some funding where we could just give it away right now. And if we start to get traction, then look at how to monetize it more. But I think right now, giving it away, using up this excess capacity we have, might be a good first step.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's, sorry, go ahead.
No, Rich, that was it. I just said, yeah, that was it.
Give it a hell yeah. Yeah, I think when it comes to hackathons and grant programs and just different programs to approach it, that's something we actually have a call later this week. Shan's putting her attention to it to this quarter and Q3. So yeah, this is just the beginning. I think in terms of projects being built on top, we're in a really, really great position to also have things like requests for projects. So just as you have requests for features for the obviously for the subnet or different types of jobs. You know, there's if you also have ideas, but you don't necessarily want to build it yourself. We as a network can build a request for projects for these hackathons, and then you have specific bounties where people can obviously compete to win prizes. And I think probably around ECC, which will be in June, July. There's I'm sure the subnet will be more than ready for them. So yeah, exciting times on that front.
So Rich, I think we will update the community on the results of the last 2 weeks tomorrow, right?
Sorry, what was that? Is that?
We will provide a technical update about the last 2 weeks tomorrow. I think, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually just finishing something to post in the AI video chat. That would be a very, very high level. But Rick's written a full technical update, which he can share tomorrow, and that goes into a lot more detail. So I can play it like that.
Great. Yeah. Any more comments on AI stuff in Livepeer?
So I see one question of Huster. He asks, can the IE subnet serve for large models? So I think you did the benchmarking there, Titan, but I also might know the answer. So
Can the AI subnet serving for large models? What do you mean by large models?
So I think he means Sora, and so that these really big ones. So the open Sora, I tried it on my machine, the 390. That did not work really well. But it's all, yeah, I think we have answered this question before. Yeah, the subnet can do that, but it all depends on like the type of models. These models will be optimized, and it will be about the VRAM that they require. And there will be also be some optimizations, like Titan talked about already, to get this VRAM down for these models. And there are ways to distribute these models over multiple GPUs. So I'm not really scared that we cannot run these large models, but currently on one GPU, with the current limitation in the system, it's not possible, for example, to run Sora to my experience. But Titan can go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, can the subnet support large models? Sure. I mean, the subnet itself is just a structure of how to pay for pixels that are being generated, right? So, yes, the answer is, can the subnet offer the largest model in the world? I mean, essentially, yeah, it could. If someone could come along with a large enough machine to handle it. And that's one of the topics that Doug had mentioned in the past is, the Livepeer network being able to utilize, GPU power that isn't within the hands of consumers, right? Like maybe industrial or commercial people or companies that are spinning up these large nodes. They usually have like this startup period of needing to buy the equipment 6 months ahead of time, but they don't have product market fit, and so in the meantime, they could put these machines on the Livepeer network to subsidize their cost, or using other networks that just allow you to rent the GPU by the hour, and being able to arbitrage, payments on the Livepeer network to networks like Akash that are very general purpose compute, and we have spillover demand and they have idle demand, and so you can kind of arbitrage the two, and in which case you could run much larger models much faster. So yeah, it just comes down to like the network of Livepeer itself is a system of trust and payments in a decentralized way, and now the network can decide what type of services and quality and price it wants to offer. So yeah.
I think you said it beautifully. Yeah.
Well,
So are there any other AI-related questions?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like the subnet. I mean, obviously it's young, but I mean, you guys really think it's ready for like some of the like pushing it out to the public right now? I mean, there's a lot of problems that I'm seeing with the way it's distributing work. I mean, during that test, it seemed like jobs would go to a single orchestrator and kind of stick with them, and it doesn't seem like we're able to really utilize the what the compute power that's on the network um, very efficiently right now. I mean, I sent out some tests today, and I sent out tests to everyone on the network, and it was only like everything would just go to one person and just stay there unless I restarted the test, and then it would go to someone else. So I just feel like we're almost a little premature with some of the stuff I'm hearing today. Just my unless I'm
Yeah,
not understanding what the goals are.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think we already talked a little bit in the pre-alpha and alpha group. So yeah, nice to have you in there as well. And you gave us this feedbacks as well, and we could reproduce it. So in my technical update that I wrote, which I will post or tomorrow or this afternoon because it's ready, I just have to finish some statistics about the test we did. So there's also this problem that's still in there. So the selection algorithm that Papa Bear is talking about is not ideal. So that is because we currently wrap the selection algorithm of the transcoding code. And we think that there, because for example, with transcoding you have multiple streams, that it sticks a little bit with one orchestrator, even though the capacity has already been reached. So this is something we have to solve before we move to like this phase where we put our subnet out there. So there are still some problems, and I have listed them all down in the technical update that I will give you later. So we are aware. So I agree with that point that there are still some things that we have to solve out. We're really happy that it works, that we get tickets paid, that we have enough capacity to be able to do this community DApp event. That was a good success from a capacity side, but there are still a lot of things we have to do there to get it really ready for like this full open release. But we're currently in the alpha phase, and we will keep you updated on everything that's going on there. So maybe Rich has something else to add there, but this was my technical part side.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I mean, I think we're we're
nothing
making
from me.
progress. I was gonna say I feel like we're making progress, but I kind of got the impression just from what's been talked here that I think it's like we're trying to push this out and get it out and let people use it and stuff like that, and it seems a little premature to me, just based on what I've been seeing, especially if it goes under load. I think it's gonna where we are right now. I have a feeling it's gonna crumble.
Yeah, so I agree with that on that part. So there are kind of two things here. So you have the DApp, of course, from Con and CJ that's trying to launch, and we have our own deadline when we want to launch our subnet. And I think those are two different dates there. So we can support CJ and Quan to have enough load, but we will need to have some fallback solutions. We have those already in there, and we can enable those and we can scale those down. So when the subnet grows and we improve it, we can scale down our fallback solutions and we can let the subnet handle that. So there are solutions there, but from our perspective, from like the Livepeer subnet development, we are still just after the pre-alpha phase. So we have analyzed all the metrics from the orchestrators that joined in the pre-alpha, and we now know all the shortcomings, the things we have to improve, and that's basically the alpha stage in which will we target those. And then after that, we have a beta phase even where we want to do this optimizations to the network. How can we get multiple models on, like, for example, a bigger GPU, like a 800, if somebody, like these companies with 800s that are not being used want to join the Livepeer network for momentarily, but they have 80 gigabytes, you can do more than 7 inference jobs for text image on those. So that optimization that follow in the beta phase. And I think when we are at that point, optimizing our system, then we will be really ready to take on bigger DApps, look at partners. So I agree with you on that point. So in the technical update, I will share there. A lot will, I think, will be clear after that.
I couldn't hear the question for some reason. I think Discord's
Oh,
block.
yeah.
What was the question?
I can reiterate of Papa Bear can tell it himself. So I think the question was seeing from all the, because Papa Bear was in the alpha group with us in pre-alpha group, and he's running his own orchestrators. He said that the selection algorithm that we have talked about is not optimal yet. There are other optimizations that need to be done before we can really push this into the public.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I think maybe one thing to add. Obviously, once we also, from a resource perspective, once we validate that this actually can work and is cost effective, and we pass certain requirements, that's when we can also start to think, okay, how do we expand out the team and the efforts beyond Rick and the number of hours that you've given. So yeah, I think that's definitely the next stage. Also thinking not just how do we get more people building on top, but how do we also activate the community a bit more at this stage. I know it's been a little bit more, not hermetically sealed, but it hasn't been as open as it could be, and that's the next stage.
All right. Any last comments on the AI initiative? There we go. Brad, do you want to talk a little bit about graphics cards between hardware and inference time? What you're seeing?
Yeah. So I've been experimenting on just hardware that I've had here at the house. A lot of it's a few years old or even 5 years old. And it kind of varies in between those years. I have 270 chipsets, 170 chipsets, some old Xeon E5 V3 servers and their processors. And as I was moving the 4090 around to different generations or different types of hardware, I'd get different inference times on the ByteDance model, anywhere from 600 or 500 milliseconds up to 1 or 1.2 seconds after the model's fully loaded in there. So it seems like and it gets faster with the newer generation of processors and RAM with as I moved the 4090 from the oldest thing I had to the newest thing I had. So it seems like RAM does play some role in motherboard, maybe even CPU, but I think it's more RAM once you're doing the faster paced generations. I don't think it's going to make much difference on image to video because it's a 30-second generation time anyway. There'll be a little bit more overhead when the data comes back as well, same thing. But I don't think it's going to be as drastic. And the context of all this is Papa Bear's 4090 is insanely fast compared to mine. And that's what sent me down this rabbit hole, and I still haven't caught him. I haven't even gotten close.
Well, like you said, though, it's mostly in the image, text to image stuff. It's very, very close when you get to image to video.
Yeah, but even in the alpha test, your image to video was 21 seconds or 22 seconds with the app, and mine was 25 and 26. Both are reasonable, both are acceptable. But I was just curious what that difference was and if I could figure it out.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's still difference, but yeah, it's I mean, I guess because of the short time it takes to do those images. I mean, it's what I forget now. It was 5 or 6 times difference in speed
On the images, and it the
Yeah,
first
like the
time
text
the first time you load the model, and the first image is always slow, I found, because it needs to load the rest of the model into there when you run that first request through. And then as you hit request 3, 4, 5, and 6, it starts leveling out. Now there's differences of some sort in between, but the best I'm able to get on just inference time in the orchestrator log, so no internet back and forth to a broadcaster, is about 600 milliseconds. And that's about 3 times as long as yours, which is fascinating.
Yeah, it's not a lot of data going back. I mean, I guess because
I know.
these are with the models already warm. So you're
And I'm
basically,
not
I
spam
mean, I
clicking
think you're
or
just sending a
spam
little
sending.
text. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about it offline, and I'm very curious too about it. But other than, yeah, I can't imagine that it's taking that much PCI bandwidth to transfer some text basically to the model. But I can't think
No,
of what
and
else would be going on.
and most of mine are either running on, so the older hardware is PCIe 3.0, but all have been on X8 or above. Even when I put it on X4, it didn't make any difference at all. And the slowest one I had was the Xeon E5. I think it's 2660 V3s that are on RAM that's like 2133 DDR4 RAM that runs at 2133. So that's the slowest one, and that comes back at over a second. The i3 9100 B365 chipset comes down to about 725 milliseconds. A new 12600 i5 12600K with DDR4 3200 RAM is at 600 milliseconds. I'm sending the same prompt every time, but these aren't like super ideal testing conditions. There's other stuff going on, so there is some, but you can tell there's a difference with each system. Now the only one I need to knock off is go buy some DDR5 RAM
Did you
and everything and do it all over again.
Did you test? So you're doing the text to image. Have you done the image to video comparison as well between all those?
No, because that takes more time. I haven't done that one. I imagine it'll be about the same, but we're talking about it was like a 4 or 5 second difference in that inference time.
Right, I can see
the older hardware.
But
I mean,
is
I could
that
try it.
inference time due to the card needing to warm up for like a few seconds or something? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think so, because I am selecting like the max performance in the server setting, like the NVIDIA settings. I'm on Linux Ubuntu 22.04. I have not the server edition, but the actual like desktop edition, so I can actually do some stuff and see it. But I have it setting it to max performance. Doesn't seem to change anything that much, but it does keep it up in the higher power level.
I guess the question is like, to what degree does it matter if a text to image is done in 0.2 seconds or 0.7 seconds? If you know, the chances of you getting a job that frequently are pretty small when it comes to text to image, whereas like image to video, if the difference is negligible, like a few seconds, then it's probably not worth the, like, I know it's an investigation, so it's interesting. I know that you love going down these rabbit holes. So,
well, I just want to interrupt really quickly. When you're going to talk about like text to image, and you say, what difference does it make if it takes, 3 times longer, or like, for one image, it doesn't matter, but every time, if it's 3 times slower, you can handle 3 times less. I mean, you're getting 3 times less capacity if someone's sending that same job through, because you can't take another job until your job is complete.
And you could queue 3 more ready to go, and there'd be a little bit of delay, but you could render them about the same time I could render one.
So you're losing out a lot of capacity. It would be like saying, oh, what if your video card could only transcode 20 streams, but I can transcode 60 streams, and it's the same card. That's a big difference.
But if you're only getting one stream,
well, I mean, sure, but we're gonna we're gonna hope we're not.
Of course. No,
So,
that's a good point.
I mean, sure, if you break it down to one thing, yeah, I mean, you're talking, half a second or something, not a big deal. But you know, if the card's hopefully being used, and there's a lot of people adopting this, it's a big difference.
I think too also the prompt that you can give a gateway is how many images do you want to make with this prompt, like one submission. Do those get submitted to one machine to do consecutively, or do they get split up amongst orchestrators?
No, goes to one. And have you seen what your max capacity is on that, Brad? Have you tried that?
I haven't tried that, but it's in looking at the ByteDance model, at least just that model, it is almost exactly linear. A batch of 3 takes 3 times about, with some margin for error as the batch.
Well, I'd just be curious because like I've been able to do a batch of 15 on that card, and I know like on a 3090, I think they were maxing out at 3 images that they could do.
Yeah, and 16 gigabyte cards would max out at 2 from my testing.
And in all honesty, I don't even know if it maxed out at 15. I got tired of just incrementing by 1. I went from 15 to 20, and I was like, okay, it can't do 20, but it can do 15 somewhere in the middle. But that would actually be an interesting test to know, just because that would kind of go to the what I was talking about with just the capacity of the card and how much work it can do, and what you're losing out on if network's at capacity and people are trying to get jobs through.
Yeah, and I mean, to Titan's point, 600 milliseconds is still respectable. It's just, I was just like, what is the difference? It just doesn't make any sense. But
I mean, for that, then it's like, why buy a 4090 then? Then go with a cheaper card.
I did
you want to get you want it to be running it
because you can Titan anybody else. You can see on the benchmarking spreadsheet that you have. I put both on there, and you can see the difference in times. I'm closer to Popovich now, but I'm not there on the text image yet.
Yeah, for people wondering, I'll just share a screenshot of it. So, yeah, there's the 2 bottom ones at Astra there. Exact same card, different hardware that it's installed on. You're getting a pretty big difference in Inference. Very interesting.
Yep. You just got one more test to go. Let's see how it goes. I can't remember what Pond was. He messaged me it, but I was on my phone.
Huster says, do you have a specific timeline for the development or release of the AI subnet? Maybe it should be released on media such as X, which can also make the development more targeted, step by step, and let more. Yeah, I think the timeline was posted by Rick. And there's a forum post about it. Or a post about it somewhere.
The timeline for the actual release of the public launch, subnet wise. Yeah, I think it's still a work in progress. An exact date. We need to think of what it means. What does a public launch actually mean, right? Because ultimately, soon you'll be able to build on it anyway. So I think probably we'll be going down, like I said, a hackathon route or something where we give people early access to get assisted support for building on it. But I guess in terms of actually going fully live, I don't know. Rick, he's gone, hasn't he? Where was the comment that Rick made? Titan, you were saying?
It was in the AI subnet channel like a month ago, or a few weeks ago when we first starting. So yeah, have fun looking for that comment.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean the date that we have is for the AI SP is about mid-May. But as soon as I don't want to be held to that, please don't hold me at gunpoint. That is a rough timeline that we're looking at, and I think for a much larger public launch, and we will be looking to do softer teaser launch in the next month or so. Jacopo, who's our head of marketing, and Shan, who I'm sure you all know on the ecosystem growth side, we'll start to put some teaser out there over the next weeks for sure.
Great. All right. Well, with that being said, we've gone through all of our topics. We have anything else? Oh, except for, did we answer the price per unit changing question that Pawn had? Basically, is getting pushed back till third week of April or something like this. Yeah, something like that. Cool. Any other topics we'd like to cover? If not, no worries. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for coming. We'll end it here, and appreciate you being here to make Livepeer the most decentralized and open video infrastructure in the world. We will see you all next week. Cheers.
Thanks all. Thanks, Simon.